And here we are at the last of the original 4 that Hasbro skipped over for Zyuohger. A group of evil hunters have conquered Cube Land, where all the architecture is cube-themed, and they plan to conquer another alternate dimension. So they send a group of 5 of the inhabitants of Cube Land, the Zoo Men, and yes, we're using their normal costumes, whatever. They send them through a portal to check out an alternate dimension. The first 4 get in fine, but the leader of the group gets accidentally trapped in between the 2 dimensions when the portal accidentally closes too soon. The Zoo-men, disguised as humans, integrate into this alternate dimension. But they actually like it here. A month goes by for them, but 5 months goes by for the huntsmen, and they assume that they were just killed by the inhabitants, so start invading. So it's up to the Zoo-men to defy their conquerors and try and save this dimension. The cube of the former leader accidentally gets lost and found by a human hitchhiker, who joins their fight to save the dimension as Power Rangers Wild Champions. A Red Ranger, Red Eagle, Irwin, played by Aramis Knight, is a nature-loving zoologist kid who wants to fight to save his dimension from the evil hunters. He's confident but happy-go-lucky at the same time. Blue Shark, Dolphy, played by Thomasin McKenzie, our first female Blue Ranger in quite a while. She doesn't like to show weakness, and she's always striving to better herself. Yellow Lion, Lionel, played by Marcus Gribner, who is one of our male Yellow Rangers. He's happy-go-lucky comic relief. Green Elephant, Horton, played by Avon Georgia. Sorry if I pronounced that name wrong, because I probably did. He is the serious one. And White Tiger, Tigress, played by Christina V, who is the girly, kind one of the team. And yes, she's played by Vesper from Hyperforce. And later, our 6th Ranger is the Chimera Ranger, Homer, played by Chantez Simpson, who was originally supposed to play Calvin in Ninja Steel, but something happened, I don't know. So, hey, second time's a charm for acting in Rangers. He was a former security guard that the Huntsmen kidnapped and then forced on some Zoo-men spirits into him to become the Chimera Ranger. And because of all 3 of the different Zoo-men souls in him, he can be Rhino, Wolf, or Crocodile. And later, the original team leader reappears because he was lost in between the dimensions, which was the morphing grid. And eventually, he finds his way out and constructed his own morpher to become the Orange Ranger. He is Buddy the Eagle, played by Bob Marley. Their base is a treehouse that's getting rented out by Mario, who turns out to be Irwin's uncle, and he didn't even know that they're animals. He's a kind of comic relief ally of the team, similar to Boom. And just like Boom, we have an episode where he pretends to be a ranger. And then later we meet Larry the Gorilla, who's another comic relief ally, played by Keith David, doing a similar delivery as he did as Keen Andreas.
No, ooh, and what do we have here? You must be Anne. So,
all Rangers have a Animal Instinct Awaken power-up that gives them aspects of their animal forms. And because Chimera has multiple, he has multiple. And Larry gives some of Irwin his spirit so he can unlock Champion of the Jungle, Gorilla form. And later he also gets Champion of the Great Blue Sea, the Whale, which has its own specific Morpher Blaster thing. And Buddy gets a Purple Condor form. And his battleizer for the season is the Grand Champion form. Everyone has a blaster that turns into a sword. Both Erwin and Buddy have a sword that's blade can break into a whip sword thing. The base 5's morpher is the Cube Mobiler, which is a cube that turns into a phone. And the morph, they hit the yellow button and then 1 through 5 for their respective eagle, shark, lion, elephant, tiger. And say, Champion, awaken! Shut, close, and twist the top to the logo matches. And then it makes a Tarzan roar because, yes! Whoa! And Buddy has a version that's gold. The Chimera Morpher is Homer's old security guard flashlight that was converted into the free Morpher, which he twists the little cube in it to be rhino, wolf, or crocodile. And then he plays Bop It and hits the back. And it has the Tarzan roar for each respective rhinoceros, or wolf, or crocodile. He has a gun that can also turn into a fishing pole. The villains are the huntsmen, who like to conquer alternate dimensions and hunt the inhabitants. And, you know, it's kind of like Predator from the movie Predator, as they like hunting aliens. Their base is a giant spaceship that looks like a longbow. And eventually they do move into the normal dimension to negate the time difference. Oh, and this human dimension is a completely different dimension from any others we've seen so far, and has never had a Power Rangers in it before. The foot soldiers are known as trappers. The leader of the huntsmen is Zald, who is a little cube monster who every time he gets broken up, he can just reform. And because of this, he's a very proactive main villain. To voice him, Scott McNeil doing his Piccolo voice.
You'll be helpless. Try to imagine how it'll feel to live unable to do anything with all that power you possess. Then you'll know what hell is really like.
And then there's Sutelk, who is the scientist of the Huntsman, who turns out to formerly be Cletus, the whale, who was some of the original zoo men who attempted to resist the Huntsman but ultimately failed, and he ended up losing the whale powers morpher until later when it was rediscovered by the Rangers. And yes, Sutelk is just Cletus spelled backwards. I'm that dumb and non-creative. And to voice him, Iwan Rewan, also known as
Ramses, no. You forgot to ask one question. You forgot to ask if I'm a liar.
Then there's Narya, the overly royal general, played by Kimberly Brooks, doing her Anessa from Cross Edge voice.
I'm glad I get to see you again. It's been too long. So full of energy. But surely you've heard that he who loses his temper loses the fight.
And then, in season 2, we'll get to that, we meet Genus, who uses the Shin Genus suit because it's way better. And he's like a huntsman who takes the hunting job way too seriously. He's also kind of a Starscream to Azal's Megatron. He's this backstabbing bastard who wants to usurp power. To voice him, Jonathan Brooks.
I see the town up ahead. A bit farther and I'll have revenge. You're one of those pesky fairy tale flies. What are you doing here?
And for a couple episodes, we see the return of Davy Jones from Pirate Armada. and he's like a cyborg now because he absorbed the last vestige of power from the God's Eye, and he brought himself back, but now he's like cybernetic because he still loses some limbs. But because he has the power to God Eye now, he can still bring past monsters back. And speaking of Pirate Armada, there's a crossover episode or two, and I will cover this more in my Super Mega Force Another Take series when I get to after the series extras. And if you guys want to see me do these videos in a similar vein, so like this will be the short general version, but you want me to do a longer version like my Another Take on Super Mega Force, let me know. But even if you don't, then here's a little animation made by the awesome YouTuber Tom to add to this crossover because Power Rangers. Hyperforce, Black, ready, power up! And then she fights White Tiger because behind the scenes reference, Sierra Hanna was originally supposed to play Vesper. That doesn't really work with my Pirate Armada, but shut up. We also do an adaptation of Super Sentai Strongest Battles, where a mysterious witch invites several past Rangers, and when they refuse, she abducts them, to a mysterious planet. And we got all the recent teams, plus Pirate Armada, and I don't know, some extra past Rangers. And it turns out that the mysterious witch is Scorpina, who is played by the Sentai actress, as well as Shioli Katsuna. Sorry if I pronounced that name wrong, for new footage and to voice her in English. And Scorpina tricks the past Rangers into thinking, oh, this is just a tournament, and the winner gets to have a mysterious prize. Gotta win to figure out it's not bad. Wink. And the losers turn out to appear in several of these giant columns to power them to summon Lokar the Terrible into this dimension. And the winner of the tournament will be the host to Lokar. To voice Lokar, Scott McNeil doing his Dinobot voice.
Excuse me. Are you implying that the current situation is somehow my responsibility?
Pirate Yellow, Lindsay, finds out about this and ends up freeing the Constellation Force, as the Huntsmen also find the mysterious planet and try to destroy the Rangers when they're stuck to the pillars. And then the Constellation Force fights the Hunters and temporarily destroy Azald with a 9-man pentagram galaxy. The others run away as the Constellation Force goes off to try and free other Rangers with Lindsay. Pete and Erwin try to confront Scorpina about this, and Pete has this long speech where he's trying to say, don't let evil sway you into trying to get what you want. He's seen his best friend Naga turn to evil to get what he wants, emotions, and even his own brother died because of his influence with evil. Don't be like them. Be like Naga and break the evil control on you. Scorpina thinks about it, but it's too late. The pillars activate, and Lokar has chosen a champion, Azald, because he's basically immortal. And Azald mutates into Lokar. Scorpina rejects their offer and heads outside to literally magic staff make my monster grow and grow Lokar to giant size. Vicky, Brody, Erwin, Marvelous, and Pete all come together and turn into their respective battleizers to try and fight Lokar, but it's not enough. And Marvelous is like, okay, plan B, And then he takes out the Red Galleon Buster, and he loads in the anchor key, which is the first time he's done this, and he has no idea if this is going to work. Special charge! And then everyone loads in their respective ranger keys and fires a special wave! And then everyone does their respective slash, and then it becomes a special wave, final wave, and it blows up Lokar. And Scorpiona's like, no, Lokar! And then she's put under arrest by Pete, and she's taken into Constellation Force's hands. In the penultimate episode, Genus takes control of the Huntsman. Sutel tries to rebel against him, but fails. And Narya is forced to obey Genus. And then using their cross-dimension travel tech, they overload it and force both dimensions to merge. Genus kills Narya and uses his powers to smash this dimension's connection to the morphing grid by ramming the arrow ship into it. And then we kind of have a ripoff of Wild Forces ending with Master Org and all the Rangers demorphed. But thanks to their friendship and imagination powers, the grid reforms and they get their power back doing our full 7-team morph. They defeat Genus and live happily ever after in their new merged animal-human dimension. It is confirmed that dinofury will be longer and be 2 seasons, so this is how I will order the seasons airing. This will make some people mad, but hey, it's what we gotta do, because for some reason we're not allowed to go back to 1 season, even though literally everyone wants it to. I will eventually be doing Curie Manger, How I Would Adapt, when that series is over, which of the time I'm making this video, it is not. So in the meantime, I might do some How I Would Adapt Kamen Rider, or Mask Rider,